The Skeptic community's day of reckoning has been a long time coming. This community has been sitting pretty for years, making videos criticizing SJWs, feminists, and anyone who had arguments that were either illogical or downright stupid. But like every community, it has more than a few skeletons in its closet, and I would like to share a few of them with you. In the first installment of this trilogy, focusing on the Skeptic community, I will talk about 5 individual stories involving various individuals in this glorious community. So without further ado, let's get started. Our story begins with the Skeptic YouTuber that went by the name of Rage After Storm. Rage had the bloody audacity to make a video on race realism, which admittedly made her look crazy and a little out there, but nonetheless it was still her opinion. You would think the Skeptic community would be okay with this, considering they give everybody the impression they don't cultivate an echo chamber and allow people to have differing opinions. After all, everybody knows skeptics are so much better than the SJWs they criticize. Everything I just said is what I would say if it were actually true. In reality, Rage's video angered the Skeptic community, as they believed Rage was both a racist and a neo-Nazi. One of these individuals was a YouTuber by the name of KrautNT, who was really offended by what Rage said. In fact, he was so offended that he decided to fight dirty. Kraut contacted Rage's employer, Kipper Central, on Twitter and informed them of Rage's video in a petty attempt to get her fired. And the sad part is that it actually worked. The very next day, Kipper Central announced on Twitter that they had fired Rage After Storm, or to be more technically accurate, suspended. We have decided to suspend one of our writers, Rage After Storm, following a series of tweets and the content of one of her YouTube videos. When Rage first started writing for us, she was very down to earth and agreed with many of our other writers on many things. However, very recently, she has changed her views and has become sympathetic to ideologies we cannot endorse or facilitate. Unless she reforms her thinking, we will have no option but to remove Rage from Kipper Central entirely. We hope she takes the opportunity to change her ways and rethink whether this is the best direction for her. To be clear, we will not tolerate Rage's current views and standpoints, and people who take these views are not welcome in Kipper Central. We will not be filling Rage's role as deputy editor, and this role will be absorbed into the senior editor role until we require more assistance in this workload. Kraut received a ton of backlash for this, as many people accused him of bullying Rage off the internet for having the audacity to have a differing opinion than him. Kraut didn't take the criticism well and responded by lambasting everyone that criticized him. At the very least, we can give him credit for not calling his detractors Nazis. Oh wait, he actually did that.
And in the end, your Nazi bitch queen, Rage After Storm, as much as you would like to fantasize about her being silenced, packed her bags and ran away like a little bitch.
That was not a joke, ladies and gentlemen. A grown man called everyone that criticized him for bullying a woman he disagreed with off the internet Nazis. At the very least, Kraut and his skeptic friends didn't gloat about driving Rage off the internet. Oh wait, they did do that!
It's because of the Rage After Storm thing. We made a video in response to us bullying Rage After Storm. And make no mistake, we bullied the shit after Rage After the Storm. We bullied her off social media. She took herself off that shit. We bullied the fuck out of her.
Kraut's crusade against Rage evolved into a crusade against the alt-right, which is why he decided to do something about it by creating a Discord server to conduct special operations against the alt-right, which was code for anyone that had a differing opinion. Think of it like an online jihad. Among the names on Kraut's hit list were Aiden Paladin, Baked Alaska, James Alsop, JF Garapi, Paul Joseph Watson, Richard Spencer, and Stefan Molyneux, among many others. Some of the individuals that were targeted were slated to attend the disaster con known as Kilroy. If that wasn't bad enough, the woman responsible for spearheading the event, Based Mama, was a part of this server, along with a whole bunch of other skeptics. To be clear, most of the individuals in the server, including Based Mama, were not responsible for the doxing and targeting targeted attacks that took place, as those were conducted by Kraut and a few other unsavory individuals. In the end, it didn't even matter, because all of this was made public by a Twitter user by the name of Brave in Ruin, who blew the whistle on the entire operation. After that, it was pretty much over. Shortly after Kraut's Doxin server was made public, he abandoned his channel and left the internet in disgrace. At the time of writing this, Kraut's whereabouts are unknown, and he hasn't made a video in quite some time. I don't know if he plans to make a return to YouTube anytime soon, but if he doesn't come back, at least he'll have all those YouTube scientists to keep him company.
Most well-known and credentialed scientists of this YouTube community.
Kraut attempted to dox Coach Red Pill by revealing personal information about him, which included accusations of sexual harassment, forceful kissing, scamming an old business partner, and a decades-old relationship with alt-right figurehead Richard Spencer. This information was given to Kraut by his good friend and fellow skeptic Jeff Holiday, who himself gave the information to a 4chan user who proceeded to upload it to a doxing site. Why would Jeff sink so low to assist Kraut in attempting to commit such a despicable act? Coach Red Pill had made several videos criticizing Kraut, which didn't sit well with him considering Kraut was his friend. On top of that, Jeff shared Kraut's desire to take down the alt-right. They were so desperate to do this that they honestly believed Coach Red Pill had long-standing ties to the alt-right because he talked with Richard Spencer, when in actuality their relationship didn't go any further than a podcast interview. What makes all of this hypocritical is the fact that Jeff criticized SJWs for engaging in these kinds of tactics, only to fall for the exact same tactics when the opportunity arose to ruin the career of someone he didn't like. He, along with his other skeptic buddies, were trying to drive Coach Red Pill off the internet like they had previously done to Rage After Storm, except this time it didn't work. Coach Red Pill made a video informing his audience that Kraut was planning to dox him with the information he received from Jeff. Throughout the course of the video, he debunked and flat out denied the allegations Kraut had planned to use against him. He did this because he believed Kraut was going to follow through with his nefarious plan, but that never happened because the element of surprise Kraut thought he had in regards to the scandalous allegations that Jeff had managed to dig up was blown away like a bullseye at a shooting range.
Jeff, oh my god, the fact that I gathered this data on Coach Red Pill is gonna bite me in the fucking ass because he knows I gathered it. Where the fuck is Jeff Holiday now?
Kraut, you need to let him know that any information that you gathered on Coach Red Pill was a background check on his credentials and who he is as a person. That is all. It wasn't meant for tactics to be used against him in a SJW way. It was to verify his credibility as somebody who speaks in that field of expertise.
Jeff. The data I gathered on Coach Red Pill is now being used against me, essentially. They think.
What do you mean?
That's the thing. Like, the first thing he brought up, why are you gathering private information, like, for example, on Coach Red Pill?
It's not private information.
And here's the thing. He claims I've been doing the same with Ryan Falk, etc., that I'm gathering private data. And
what's private about Ryan Falk? I can Google
Brian Falk
I have to tell you something, Jeff. I shared the things that I got on Coach Red Pill with Sargon of Akkad.
Yeah, so?
And he's now accusing me of doing SJW tactics.
That's not SJW tactics. That's vetting somebody who's talking as a public figure. Exactly. That's something every news organization does. That's something every fucking YouTuber does. That's absolutely fucking preposterous. The only reason why anybody gives a shit about any of this is because they're positioning themselves as being persecuted. That is a fucking SJW tactic. Oh, I'm a persecution. I'm a persecution. This is why it's wrong. No, what's wrong is defrauding a fucking economist. What's wrong is being a large piece of shit that has to hide from social media for 3 years.
The most despicable thing about all of this, in my opinion, is the fact that Jeff somehow obtained Coach Red Pill's real name and revealed it on Twitter in an attempt to intimidate him. What makes this hypocritical is that Jeff made a video denouncing those who use personal information as an intimidation tactic.
What do you think of doxing? If you dox somebody, you're a cunt. Is revealing somebody's name the same thing as doxing? Subjectively, maybe. That depends. It depends on the context. Depends on a few different things. But I will say, intentionally revealing somebody's name who didn't want it is an intimidation tactic. And if you do it, you're a cunt.
Okay, this is bad, but it's not like he tried to defend his revelation of what he thought to be Coach Red Pill's real name.
Gus? No, I just used Gus. And yeah, it was to infer, like, dude, I do know who you are, but fucking Jesus Christ, will you leave me alone?
His real name isn't Gus. I know that because I know his real name. I'm not revealing his real name for obvious reasons, but I can assure you it's not Gus. All of this makes me question whether or not skeptics are worse than the SJWs they criticize. Most of them like to give everybody the impression they won't engage in the same tactics as those pesky SJWs, because as we all know, SJWs are incredibly close-minded people who will deplatform anyone that has a differing opinion than them. But as we've seen recently, some skeptics are more than willing to employ the exact same tactics to silence people they don't like, that have differing opinions than them. Jeff Holiday was supposed to be better than Steve Shives, not become him. At this point, we might as well classify Jeff as a diet SJW. Candid was an app created by former Google executive Bindu Reddy. It was designed to be a social media platform free of toxicity that used an AI bot to identify anything that could be considered problematic, such as hate speech, slander, and death threats. Candid were able to convince skeptics such as Armored Skeptic, Shoe on Head, and The Amazing Atheist to do sponsored videos for them, where they all touted how great it was. It's not like Candid was using the AI bot I previously mentioned to filter out negative comments. It's not like they were paying people to attack harmful opinions, and it's not like the skeptics that were shilling for them were forced to sign 2-year non-disparagement agreements, preventing them from saying anything negative about the app. No, of course not. Candid wasn't doing anything shady. Harmful Opinions is just a paranoid conspiracy theorist. Harmful Opinions made several videos criticizing Candid and the skeptics that chilled for it, which didn't sit well with the higher-ups at the company, who decided in a move of insanity and pettiness to sponsor videos made by YouTubers on their payroll to attack Harmful Opinions. One of these individuals admitted that Candid had sponsored an attack video he made against Harmful Opinions. I can confirm that this individual was TJ Kirk, aka The Amazing Atheist. These slimy fucks actually paid TJ to attack Harmful Opinions, and he accepted it without question because apparently you can make any skeptic your personal lapdog if you throw a little money in their face. The only reason TJ's video never saw the light of day was because they felt it was too harsh, which was code for TJ's video being done and ready to upload, but at the 11th hour, Candid's AI bot stepped in and said, "I'm sorry, TJ, but I'm afraid I can't let you do that." And then you have people like Armored Skeptic saying how fun Candid was, and that he wasn't saying that because Candid was paying him, which is absolute bullshit because the only reason he said it was because Candid was literally paying him to say it, and his fiancée Shoe on Head was right there with him. What makes this so hypocritical is the fact that these people constantly preach about ethics and principles and have made a career criticizing other people for being unethical. But at the same time, these same fucking people were willing to take money from a company that was using an AI bot to censor negative comments, and were literally paying people to do sponsored hit pieces against harmful opinions, while at the same time touting itself as a free speech app. And I know what you skeptics are going to say, but Zion, we're all good girls and boys. We didn't do nothing wrong. Candid was always meant to be a free speech app. Get out of here with that disingenuous bullshit, you slimy fucks. The only instance of a Candid-sponsored hit piece against harmful opinions that actually made it to your computer screen was from the king of boulders himself, Mundane Matt.
Now, for the sake of full disclosure, back about a month ago, I was hired by them to do a sponsored video talking about the app. I chose to do this video because I was already using the app that I had found from other YouTubers talking about it. I liked it, and I liked what they were promoting in terms of free speech and open expression with anonymity. The key there being anonymity. All right, and I did the video. Came with a couple hiccups in terms of the disclosure, never mind the fact that looking at the actual FTC guideline rules, I was still well within my disclosure rights just from the get-go, but I added extra layers of disclosure so people would then know that it was a paid advertisement. But that being said, when I watched Harmful Opinions videos today, the only thing I could truly think of was really Chicken Little, because what he posited in that 10-minute rant of his was that basically Candid's AI, its algorithm, was going to be monitoring free speech and restricting free speech that it deemed to be inappropriate. And It's funny that he brought up the AI and he compared it to Jigsaw AI, which is Google's bot that does the exact same thing. Because if you really look into it, I mean, if you really look into the concept of AI, which is something that he didn't even do in regards to any other website, you'll find out that AI bots are frequently used by many sites and even apps. Siri uses it. For predictive text and to basically analyze what you're saying and to learn from what you're asking her. Google Maps uses it. Email, spam filters, so on and so forth. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, you name it. Almost every website or service you use has some kind of artificial intelligence bot or some kind of learning algorithm that is built to predict and to detect and to filter if necessary. It makes our lives intrinsically easier when these things are working and you just don't know about them.
If that wasn't bad enough, the AI bot was filtering out negative comments, which is incredibly subjective because negative comments can range from "kill yourself, you stupid faggot" to "I don't like Donald Trump and I disagree with the politics of the Republican Party." Negative opinions are not allowed, even though we promoted our app as a free speech wonderland. Negativity is toxic and it needs to be filtered, but adults and children actively engaging in child pornography is totally okay. For whatever reason that defies any sort of quantifiable logic, Candid thought that adult men trying to hook up with underage girls and those same underage girls asking for dick pics from older men didn't need to be filtered, but negative comments needed to be purged no matter what. The most fucked up thing about all of this to me is the fact that the skeptics that were shilling for this shit never bothered to inform their audiences that this was going on. And when my good friend Kayla, aka Chambers of My Heart, and another YouTuber, Johnny Fox, tried to bring the child pornography problem to their attention, they ignored it and were happy to continue accepting money from a company that was censoring negative comments, but had no problem leaving up comments about child porn. At least Sargon didn't defend the skeptic shills. Oh wait, he did!
A lot of people went hard at TJ, Armored Skeptic and Shu and others for doing sponsored videos by Candid, but they made a good point in their own defense. If the alternative media is to survive, it needs to be funded and it needs to be profitable. Any advertisers who want to work with content creators should be welcomed, even if you don't like the products that they are promoting, because the people against us will happily shut us down by any means necessary to prevent us from not only speaking, but reaching the largest audience possible to prevent us from interrupting their narratives. It is unreasonable to expect a content creator to know the full ins and outs of a sponsor when accepting the sponsorship, and while I personally wouldn't use Candid, and there may be ulterior motives behind it, I don't blame those who accepted the sponsorship because it made financial sense for them to do so. I realise that there will be many who complain about the imperfection of this system, and their points are valid. But politics isn't a game you get into and come out clean on the other side. If we want to get in the trenches and fight this culture war, we're going to have to define the acceptable amounts of mud sticking to our own, so the dialogue doesn't devolve into unhelpful backbiting. While I'm not a fan of sponsorship, it isn't necessarily an evil. Many sponsors do not have an ideological agenda and are purely interested in promoting their products to an audience who is willing to purchase them.
And then you have the CEO of Candid, Bindu Reddy, stating that her company wasn't paying people to make hate videos, yet her company was paying people to make videos that refuted the points of those that were critical of the app. People like harmful opinions.
The next question is from Harmful Opinions himself again. He'd like to know, did Candid sponsor any YouTubers to make counter videos when it started to be talked about a lot?
No, we did not make sponsor any YouTubers to make counter videos. We specifically were in conversations with multiple YouTubers at that time already. As you probably know, we've been talking to a lot of them. A lot of them were, were kind of like, oh, what is this Harmful Opinions video? Should we actually do a counter video? Should we actually, say this? And repeatedly, and you can ask them, I've asked them to not go or attack Harmful Opinions in any way. I have asked people to refute some claim.
While Harmful Opinions was being dragged through the mud and was attacked by Candid shills left and right, the Skeptic community didn't even bother to help him out. Harmful Opinions had a differing opinion than us, so he can go fuck himself. We're making all this goddamn money promoting this bullshit free speech app and lying to our audience about how great it is when we all know it's shadier than Slim. Isn't that great? The Skeptic community calling out shills or any other shady behavior should be called into question considering they have this skeleton in their closet. On June 25th, 2017, the Candid app was shut down because Candid's parent company, Post Intelligence, was acquired by the ride-sharing service Uber, and that officially brought an end to the crazy, wild, and downright bizarre saga that was Candid. The CEO of Candid was a former Google executive, and YouTube uses a very similar AI bot to demonetize content that could be deemed problematic, offensive, and in this case, negative.
Really makes you think.
For years, Andy Warski made a name for himself making videos on SJWs and feminists. His videos were the perfect blend of criticism and humor. He was very good at debunking the arguments of the particular individual he was targeting, while also mocking them with ruthless derision. Not to mention his chemistry with his brother Chris was part of the reason why people kept tuning in to watch. Their back and forth banter are what made Andy's older videos so enjoyable to watch, as the two played off each other really well. And then, something happened. Over the course of 2017, the market for videos on SJWs and feminists became incredibly oversaturated. After all, there are only so many times you can say SJWs and feminists are cancer before the viewing audience gets tired of it, and that's exactly what happened in 2017. Andy was hit hard by this considering his bread and butter was mocking SJWs and feminists. In fact, he had been doing that for so long he had forgotten how to do anything else. Luckily, he decided to pivot before it was too late. He decided to shift the channel's focus to Warski Live, a live streaming series where Andy and a bunch of guests would talk about various social and political issues. This decision saved his channel from sinking like the Titanic, but in reality it only lengthened the process. Around the same time Andy made the shift to Warski Live, his brother Chris left the channel. The reason for his departure has never been given, so I can only assume he left because he felt it was time to move on and do other things. Warski Live became incredibly popular thanks in no small part to Internet Bloodsports, which is basically the YouTube equivalent of Maury Povich and Jerry Sprinter. If I could summarize and package it into a nice little bow, it's basically grown adults yelling at each other through their computer screens for 3 to 4 hours, and it quickly became a phenomenon because deep down inside, people love drama, they love conflict, and they love a good shit show, and that's exactly what Warski Live provided. During IBS's short-lived popularity, Andy Warski was one of the go-to channels for it. In fact, IBS was so popular it inspired disastrous imitators. Ain't that right, Dylan? The popularity of IBS was short-lived, as it turned out to be a flash-in-the-pan fad that quickly came and went. Despite this, Andy doubled down on Warski Live going into 2018, and that's where the show completely went to shit. As 2018 went on, Andy started to increasingly take a back seat on his own show. It soon became obvious to everyone that people weren't tuning in because of Andy, they were tuning in because Warski Live had devolved into a shit show. Things got so bad that at one point Andy burned his nipple while Tonkasa and Diogenes were autistically screeching at each other, and my god was it a sight to behold.
No more rape, Tonka! Don't rape me no more!
Why the fuck would you come to this nigger? This motherfucker told you to die in a fire because you wouldn't for the first time in his entire e-career. He had to talk to somebody who he didn't want to fucking talk to. And here you fucking are talking to this nigger.
You're the fucking cunt, Diogenes. Now get your fucking nut in your fucking mouth, bitch.
Hey, Dio. You seem pretty upset. Go back to the dilation station. Chill out a little.
Go get your dilation on, bitch. Go get your dilation on, bitch.
After realizing that the audience interest for his videos was diminishing, Andy decided to pivot back to the formula that made him famous. But something didn't quite feel right.
So they're trying to explain it, and okay, fine, fair enough, but they haven't explained why their skin tones got darker, first of all. But I also brought up in that video that people who were dislike bombing the game because of what was happening were getting falsely flagged by Creative Assembly for disliking their game, which is bullshit. People should have the ability to dislike your game, Creative Assembly. What is wrong with you? These are your fans who purchased your game.
Andy's newer videos on SJWs and feminists were shorter, more concise, and better edited, but they lacked the passion, excitement, and energy that made Andy's older videos so enjoyable to watch. These new videos are not bad by any means, they're just boring and lifeless, and on top of that, there's nothing Andy does to differentiate himself from those that are already making the same type of videos. You could make the argument that Chris was the glue that held this channel together, and now that he's gone, Andy simply isn't interesting on his own. You could make the argument that Andy has simply lost his touch, and you could make the argument that the topic of SJWs and feminism are so oversaturated that viewing audiences are tired of it and have moved on. The bottom line is this: Andy's pivot back to the glory days was an absolute disaster. When you have a channel that has over 257,000 subscribers, and you can only get 6,000 to 17,000 people to watch your videos, that is a clear indication that your audience isn't interested in what you're selling them. It's also an indication that your channel is in serious trouble. Andy's channel has been declining for months. In March, he had a total of 282,000 subscribers. That number has diminished significantly to 257,000 subscribers. And if that isn't bad enough, his total views per month have also been hit hard. At one point, he was getting over 5 million views a month. In September, he only got 262,000. To me, this indicates that Andy's shrinking audience is only sticking around because of Warski Live. And as I established before, they're not tuning in because of Andy. On the other hand, the diehards who subscribe for the videos he used to do have either stopped watching or unsubscribed altogether. I also believe that the end of the anti-SJW golden age on YouTube doomed Andy's channel to failure. I should also mention that he let YouTube fame go to his head by burning bridges with multiple people that used to be his friends, most notably Jeff Holiday and Blair White. His falling out with Jeff and Blair is so extensive that I don't have any time to go into it here. However, there is one thing I can say for certain. When it comes to Adam Race Warski achieving failure, he accomplished it.
Stop being a bitch, Diogenes, and answer the question. Why are you crying? Why are you so fucking rude?
Holy shit, Andy, you're gonna burn something down, you fucking idiot.
Why are you? Then you come back the next fucking day and you say, "What the fuck? You're a fucking joke."
Guys, shut up. We're gonna lose a Canadian here. Hang on.
Get him out of here. Get him a blanket and some tissues. He
Yeah,
wasn't ready.
Andy, go ahead.
Get him a blanket and some tissues. He wasn't ready.
Hey, my fucking point.
Hey, bitch, what's ready?
Please stop. Andy's about to set himself on fire over here.
Dipshit, are you okay?
Andy,
Andy, my job here is Tar Grain. Warski, are you alive?
Mundane Matt has never been part of the Skeptic community. In the eyes of myself and everybody else, he has always been a news commentator. The only reason he associated himself with the Skeptic community was because he wanted to boost his own popularity. If he truly wanted to be skeptical, he wouldn't have accepted money from Candid to make a sponsored hit piece video attacking harmful opinions. I don't believe for a second that Matt made the video because he genuinely wanted to refute the points that harmful opinions made. He made it because Candid paid him to do it, and he was more than willing to throw out his ethics and principles for an extra few dollars. Let's not forget that he tried to get Anita Sarkeesian deplatformed back in 2013, which was hypocritical on his part because he would spend years lambasting others for being unethical, even though he tried to get someone he didn't like deplatformed because she had an opinion he didn't like. Needless to say, he pulled a Steve Shives before that was even a thing. The most hilarious thing about all of this to me is the fact he criticized Thunderfoot last year for disingenuously leaving the Skeptic community, only to do the exact same shit recently, which he only did in an attempt to save his downward spiraling career, and on top of that, he wasn't even a skeptic.
And you can take that any way you want, Phil. You can take that any way you want, but you came at this thing from such an emotional viewpoint that it threw out all rationality, all objectivity, and this was you trying to emotionally justify to yourself the reason to go. Hence why in your video, why you were glad to leave the Skeptic community, you focused on your science videos. You focused on talking about your traffic to your channel. What does that even have to do with the price of tea in China? Nothing. Nothing. It's because you were looking for reasons to walk away instead of just walking away. But you took people who respected you, who liked you, you misconstrued their arguments, and you painted them out to be as bad as the Westboro Baptist Church? No, motherfucker, no. The only way that would apply is if we went to Heather Annabelle's funeral in Colorado and went out there with signs that says "Gods hate fags," right? Or "God hates feminists," or "She deserved to die for being a feminist." That would make us the Westboro Baptist Church. But we didn't do that. We didn't do that at all, right? People making bad jokes about a dude who is a piece of shit is not the same thing as picketing a fucking funeral. Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name is Matt Jarbo, and this is a video that I'm not going to lie, I should have made probably about a year and a half ago, right? I would say about probably February 2017 is when I should have actively done this, but I didn't. And what I'm basically here to say is that I'm quitting the skeptic community, whatever that might mean, right? I don't really assign that terminology to myself. In fact, I cringe every time I hear it because it's just like, oh, wow, it's so bad. Because I don't view myself as a skeptic. I view myself as a commentator, but I do talk about a lot of the same stuff that a lot of skeptics talk about, at least in that community. And even the people that are usually called the skeptic community don't even view themselves as being skeptics. It's a terminology that I'm not the only one that cringes at, trust me. Or laughs at, or just kind of blows off. But it's what I think you would say is generally known about us, right? Those of us who comment on social events and current events, feminism, leftist politics, radical leftist actions, things along those lines. And it's become a very interesting culture and in a very interesting community. And it's one that over the span of the last year and a half, I have just grown to be bored with.
When Mundane Matt was exposed as a false flagger, he lost a significant chunk of his audience and completely tanked his YouTube career in the process. He was, and still is to this day, losing subscribers like crazy. But despite all of this, Matt still had some people sticking by him, like Chris Raygun, Jeff Holiday, and Mr. Repsion. It's not like they laughed at those who were flagged by Matt. Skeptics would never do such a thing. Those tweets you're seeing on screen right now are not real. They are totally photoshopped because skeptics don't support false flaggers, even though they criticize others for censoring free speech. This tweet where Jeff Holiday defends Mundane Matt is not real, because who the hell would stand behind someone that false flagged people that criticized him? You wouldn't, unless you could relate because you did something shady yourself. But I'm not insinuating that Jeff is a shady cunt or anything like that. You guys know me. I would never do such a thing. At least Matt didn't shit-talk Armored Skeptic and Shoe on Head. Oh, wait! He did do that!
What's your opinion of the of the power duo?
My personal opinion?
Yeah. Mundane Matt, what's your opinion?
Okay.
Oh, I am definitely not a fan.
Well, like explain. Like, why are you not a fan?
Well, at first, I think a big part of it came from, and this is just my perspective, is that like June and I used to be friends back in the early days of Gamergate, and then we were pretty chill. We hung out a lot on streams, and then once she started dating Skeptic, her attitude towards me like really changed to the point of where I actually DM'd her once, and I was like, "Did I do anything to piss you off?" And she's like, "No, we don't even talk anymore." And that was the last time I talked to her before VidCon. And I'm just not a big they started really rubbing me the wrong way. It felt like there's a lot of elitism that comes out of that. Like I muted them both on Twitter a few months ago because people kept retweeting like a lot of the nonsense that comes out of that, and I'm just like, June, will you please, for the love of God, spell correctly?
Like I said at the beginning of this story, Matt has never been a skeptic. I wouldn't even classify him as a news commentator at this point. If anything, he should be classified as a false flagging asshole, a pro-censorship asshole, and a corporate shill willing to do hit pieces on people for the right amount of payola. The fact that he hasn't realized that his time on YouTube is up is absolutely astounding, because he can try to hold on to the small fraction of an audience he still has left, but it's not going to work. Matt is not Eminem. There is no recovery and there is no revival in his future because he went kamikaze and destroyed everything he built. Nobody in the YouTube community is willing to fuck him, but at least he can take solace in the fact that those big sexy boulders that he collects on the side of the road will always be willing to fuck him. The Skeptic community, like every other community on YouTube, has a lot of shady shit going on behind the scenes. While most of us would like to believe that skeptics are better than those pesky SJWs, the reality is that most of them are no better than the SJWs they criticize. When push comes to shove, they've shown that they are willing to use the exact same tactics as their enemies, while pretending their shit doesn't stink. Whether it's doxing, deplatforming, corporate-sponsored hit pieces, and a general lack of ethics and principles, the Skeptic community is one of a kind. I'm convinced that the Skeptic community is the YouTube equivalent of Hydra implanting themselves into S.H.I.E.L.D., or to be more technically accurate, skeptics have become SJWs in disguise. Because if there's anything this video has showcased, it's that skeptics are far from skeptical. And that is where our story concludes. For now.
EA Sports.
It's up your ass.